Finally, Man City win a trophy, their fourth League Cup trophy in a row. Pep Guardiola wins his 30th title as a manager as well. We discussed the Premier League, Liverpool tie Newcastle, Arsenal lose to Everton, so much more, as well as La Liga. So interesting as Barcelona win, Atletico Madrid lose, and Real Madrid tie. Liga. We have Serie A, we have Bundesliga, and so much more. Qué Golazo weekend recap begins right now. Hey, Qué Golazo listeners, I want to talk to you about the CBS Sports mobile app. As you know, it's my go-to for live scores and breaking news. But it's NFL draft week, and I wanted to let you in on a little football fan hack here. If you don't have the app, you can download it at your mobile app store. The CBS Sports app is always totally free. And once you have the app, or if you have the app, make sure your NFL team news and draft alerts are turned on by the settings screen. It takes about 5 seconds, okay? No excuses. And you'll not only get updates on each pick your team makes, but also when the pick is in, breaking news if your team makes a big trade, and lightning fast analysis like draft grades and player comps on each of your team's draft picks. The CBS Sports app is the best way to never miss an NFL draft moment. So if you haven't yet, make sure that you open CBS Sports app mobile app and get your mobile war room ready ahead of the action this Thursday. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Qué Golazo, our weekend recap, and Heath Pearce in the house. HP, what's up, my man?
Life is good. Life is good. As a Man City fan, lifelong Man City fan, life is good. No, man, I can't complain. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready to chat because a lot of action, and welcome everybody. I will be answering your questions as well. Heath Pearce, I wanted to run by you. First of all, you mentioned it. It's good to be a Man City fan. Obviously, they lost to Chelsea in the FA Cup semifinal, but they finally have their first trophy of 2021 as they beat Tottenham 1-0 in the Carabao Cup. Aymeric Laporte in the 82nd minute. Pep Guardiola very humble at the end, saying it's good that I coach these big teams. That's why I keep winning. But Man City have their first trophy of the year. How did you see that game? Was it everything that you expected?
Yeah, I mean, the level between Manchester City and Spurs there is a remarkable gap between the quality between these two teams. And one of the things that I was remembering recently is, with Bale, every time I think about Spurs, I think about Bale, but I started to think about Dele Alli. He was one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
In the last few seasons, and has sort of disappeared in the last sort of year and change with Jose Mourinho. He made a late appearance into that game, but that was a side note of just a random thought that I had about Dele Alli, how good he was. Because very rarely do you get to world-class level and then drop off, like disappear. Gareth Bale was one that did that, right? But he did at Real Madrid. But at a Spurs, you expect these guys to go year after year after year until they get to the club where it's do or die every game. And then, they end up going back to a Spurs or something like that. But City dominated from start to finish. Second half, Spurs were a little bit better. Obviously, it was 0-0. And that's a little bit problematic for if you're looking from the outside in saying, okay, City had like 10 shots in the first half to like 1 from Spurs. They dominated the game. They won the ball higher up the pitch. They forced bad turnovers, and then they possessed really well and had a number of chances. Goalkeeper made some big saves, but it was City's to lose from the very beginning. And they got one at the end from Laporte, and it just goes to show you. And there's two teams that I'm thinking of right now that have this, and that's City. And you were mentioning what Pep Guardiola had said. What were his words about that after the game? Something like,
well, he was saying, it's good, the reason I win so much because he celebrated his 30th trophy altogether in his career with this win. And he said basically, he was humble. Obviously, he's a great manager. We know how much he has given to the game, but he obviously honored the fact that when you manage Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Manchester City, etc., it's going to be a little bit easier. But this was City's 4 League Cup in a row, meaning that they match Liverpool's record haul of 8. He will be judged. Pep Guardiola will be, judged on other things like the Champions League, etc. But you can't deny that this is a competition that Man City enjoy and that Pep Guardiola once again victorious.
Yeah, and here's the after knowing that quote, I think about two teams right now. I think about Chelsea and Manchester City, right? It is one thing to have a number of world-class players, okay? That is one thing. They've got like $500 million on their back line.
Right.
But to be able to have a Laporte in and out of a team, injuries and whatnot, come in and deliver is an incredible thing. To have a Riyad Mahrez, who had played a bit part for a lot of his time there, be at the top of his game. And we've talked about Gundogan. We've talked about all of these guys. And when you have that little special sauce, take like the fandom out or the supporters and whatever out of it. If you have this special ability to take all of this quality, have this sort of what feels like a blank check to build the team you have, but then be able to deliver on that, I think is a really incredible thing. We saw that with Liverpool. We thought that'd be multiple years, but to see Pep Guardiola then go last year and not lose, not win Champions League, go out in the quarterfinals, not win the league, to come back again this year and to do that consistently where they're going to win the league. They've now got the League Cup 4 in a row and are in the Champions League semifinals. It really does take a special manager. Now, look, we saw Jose Mourinho go to a smaller club. I don't want to disrespect Spurs fans, but not a super club, right? Where they have a blank check and they can build a team over time and blah, blah. And
well, by reference, Tottenham is a super club, right?
yeah, that is true. That's a super league club. But you look at Spurs and you're like, okay, we always want to judge these guys who spend their whole careers at the top, right? We saw with Rafa Benitez going to a Newcastle and whatnot. We want to judge them for like, oh yeah, well, let's see them do it without the world's biggest budget and all these types of things.
And Everton.
Yeah. Exactly. And you love to see them go and do well. You love to see them get results. You all, neutral fans or fans against them want to see them fail. But to do it consistently over and over again, like they have at City, yes, they are the favorites every single year. But to win trophies is a challenge. You could see when they scored the goal how much that meant to him. It's not like he thought, and people can argue about whether or not the League Cup is a major trophy or not. But when they scored in the 82nd or 83rd, the way Guardiola got up and hugged his staff, it was just, you can tell how much work goes into even getting that trophy, in the same sense that Spurs will finish likely outside of a European spot, will likely have no trophy to finish the season, how much that could have meant to them. They were completely outmatched, but in a one-off game, you've got a chance against anybody. But they were just far better. And yeah, I guess the compliment I'm trying to make is the way that Tuchel is at Chelsea right now, continuously rotating squads, which we'll get to, with Timo Werner not having a great game, but getting a goal after, again, being out of rotation with the team. Yeah. It's so hard to do. It's so hard to motivate for that long and know that you're going to rotate players. And look, you've been in at any level you've played. When you're not starting, you never go, well, I'm just happy to be part of the team. You know how hard it is to take 20 plus world-class players? It seems easy. And then continuously rotate them and be like, I'm going to rest you. Phil Foden, you're not good enough today. I'm going to rest you. But Phil Foden having to go like, you know what? I'm going to get my 10 minutes. I'm going to prove myself again and again and again. That's really hard to manage a locker room like that. And to get the right mix of personalities, egos, and all those things. I just think there's a credit that needs to go into that, because it seems easy. Like, oh yeah, everybody says, if you gave me a blank check, I could coach any team to trophies, and it's just not that easy. So it needs to be said. And then also Zach Steffen, by the way, the fifth, I think, American to win the English League Cup. But the fourth goalkeeper, which is kind of crazy.
I was going to say, most of them are like the old goalkeepers, but it was a great day for Zach Steffen to get that trophy. Absolutely. I go back to just what you said very quickly about Guardiola. We always think about success. It's about also consistent success. And also, that saying, well, it's not about practice, it's about perfect practice. And Guardiola is so obsessed with making sure that every single little detail is taken care of. And of course, it helps when you have a $350 million bench, but still, you got to make it happen. And fair play to Manchester City. Here's the question that I ask you, Heath Pearce, asked from our friend Dave Sepperson, my former colleague at Sports Illustrated, the great Dave Sepperson. He has a question. How will Tottenham ever lift a trophy? Don't ask an Arsenal fan. Heath Pearce, how will it ever happen?
I'm not an Arsenal fan. I just wore this hat because it's a cool looking hat. I told you I'm a City fan.
Oh yeah, I forget. That's right. You're a City fan. Well, I'll answer this first, Dave Sepperson, my bud Sepp. Listen, here's the thing. There's going to be major changes this summer, and I think one of them is obviously looking, because Ryan Mason, great man, great coach, but he's 29 years old. They're looking for, reports of Julian Nagelsmann. I think that would be very interesting, because a manager like that, what you need, just like Pochettino way back, is you need, just like we were talking about Pep Guardiola, you need somebody that can not just transform losses to wins, but transform a culture. Like really bring somebody in there that completely retransforms your club and the way that you play. Jose Mourinho was never going to be that person. He was going to maybe give you something, a personality, identity, maybe even wins. It didn't happen, but you need somebody that can change your culture. Julian Nagelsmann is that kind of objective. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that if you want to completely change and maybe win a trophy, you need somebody to change your culture. And also, I'm not the biggest fan of Daniel Levy, of course, but I think it's more than just Levy and his ownership. It's about changing the culture on the pitch, off the pitch, training, etc. What do you think, HB?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a quick anecdote, by the way, with Daniel Levy. I've met him one time. You know where I met him? Him and I got to close the New York Stock Exchange together.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'll send you the photo. But it's me. I've got the gavel, and I'm closing the New York Stock Exchange, and he's standing next to me. The Red Bulls, we were playing in a friendly against Spurs. This is when Spurs went to Under Armour, and they were doing a U.S. tour during one of these moments. And the only time I've ever met him was literally standing on the floor of the stock exchange, and then we walk up to the little kind of like lifted area that overlooks the exchange to close it. And I got handed the gavel to close it, and we're just standing there with a photo. So I didn't tell him I was an Arsenal fan, but my thought on this is exactly that. I think you're spot on. If you look at any era, right? Spurs need an era, and I don't think they've had an era. I think they've cut it short. I think we're in the era, not to use era again. I think we're in a time period now where players move freely, loyalty means nothing, all of this stuff. And it's a tough time for any club, right? Especially when you look at the fact that City 6, 7, 10 years ago wasn't the City they are now, right? This new influx of investment and whatnot. And so two things I think are missing. One, I think a real rivalry between Arsenal and Spurs where those players actually hate each other and there's not like a turnover. But bigger than that, they need a manager that they're going to bring in the same way that they did Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool and work through it, right? Jose Mourinho was going to your best chance at a quick trophy, and it didn't work. So now you have to look at and say, what do I have to lose by bringing in a manager that's going to be somebody that's like, results aside, we're going to build the right team. You've got this heavy weight of players. Dele Alli sitting on your bench. Gareth Bale, you don't know what to do. Harry Kane could be worth somebody for something, an incredible amount of money that could be an influx of building your squad differently. But there has to be a philosophy, right? You have to decide what style of play are Spurs? Is it a player-based system with the players you have, or is it a philosophy of the club? And then ride that. And that's going to take some years where it's sort of the same thing that Arsenal's in right now, post Arsene Wenger. But they had Wenger before, and they were able to get trophies with Wenger. Sir Alex Ferguson was out of Man United. You need a stretch where it's an era with a manager and building a club. They've got their new stadium. They've got all the reasons to build something that might upset fans in the short term, but say, hey, hold on. The long term is what matters. And I think that's their best shot at a trophy. If they don't, it's going to be manager in, manager out, players in, player out. And you hope that you have this magical group of players like they have now. And then you hope that everyone else has to have a bad year for you to have any chance at a trophy. And I don't think that's a recipe for long-term success. Yeah, no, absolutely. Nothing more to add here. I just think Tottenham need to completely rewrite, press the reset button and create a culture, not just victories, but a culture. So we'll see what happens with them this summer. It's going to be very important. All right, let's move on to the Premier League for a second. Here, Heath Pearce. I'm sorry that I have to do this. We're not going to go through every game, but I'll just go through the results as early as Friday. It was 0-0 until the very last moments when Everton get that win, those 3 points. It was a Bernd Leno own goal in the 76th minute. I will not continue about it, but it was some interesting results this weekend as well. Liverpool as well conceding late to Arsenal loanee Joe Willock for Newcastle as well. West Ham lost 1-0 to Chelsea. I feel West Ham were hard done by, but Tuchel once again gets that 3 points with his side. Brighton lose to Sheffield United. Burnley, like, if you want Burnley to turn into like 1970s Brazil, just get them to play on a super early Sunday morning when nobody's watching.
Burnley went 4-0 against Wolves. Leeds United tie Man United 0-0. It was an entertaining result. And Aston Villa, in the last moments, Keenan Davis gets a point for Dean Smith's side as they tie West Brom, who went 2-1 up, by the way. Leicester City play Palace on Monday. Let's focus. Where do you want to focus? Any specific game that you want to talk about? We can go anywhere. You want to talk about Arsenal or no?
Yeah,
you're done with Arsenal?
Arsenal was that like, I'm all about play the young guys, and the young guys didn't really show up.
Well, I'll tell you what we can talk about that I didn't talk about games, by the way, which was just the wave of fans protesting outside stadiums. Obviously, we saw the numbers outside Emirates. Even though United weren't playing on a Saturday, you saw the numbers outside Old Trafford, of course. Just all this reactionary sentiment against the Super League, of course. And you would have thought, I was very intrigued to see how Arsenal were going to react, Heath. Mm-hmm. Just seeing all that energy, all that passion, Kroenke out, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, actually, what happened is exactly what I said would happen. I think that obviously they were missing key players, Aubameyang, Lacazette, et cetera. But they're so young, especially up front, that I feel that maybe overwhelmed them a little bit creatively. They weren't, good enough, I guess, to try and outdo Everton. But, it was a tough one to consume, a tough week for Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic that we're mobilizing fans and fans are realizing their power. I think that is an indicator, and it's harder in the U.S. with again, the single entity system. But I think it's a wake-up call for fans, right? That their money going into a club, supporting a club, their voice has a power and a value. I experienced that when I was in Germany, and we had played poorly a few games. I think I've told the story before, but the fans wrote a letter to the team, and we canceled training the time, and we sat in the room and had to read the letter out and talk about, hey, this has to change. And I remember going like, what does it matter? At that time going like, what, like, it's not like we're not trying, but what does it matter? And they were dead serious. And the fans came out and said they're going to protest cheering, and sat in the stadium for the first 20 minutes. The whole stadium was silent until they saw the effort that they wanted. And there's like basically the ultras in the corner dictate all of the songs in the stadium at the time. And I remember it being the first time that I really realized the power of the fan. One, in the fact that we had a meeting, but two, our stadium was silent for 20 minutes. Yeah. And then we started to play better and play better and play better. And then they got up and started singing, which means, the rest of the stadium got up and started singing. I was like, wow, there is a real power balance that needs to be struck, that, the club and the team can't take it for granted. Ownership especially can't take it for granted. And was, to know that fans are sort of mobilizing. Hopefully that means there's a power that makes them mobilize internationally as well, because that's the fear with all of this stuff, which is like, oh, who cares about the domestic fan? Let's go for the international fan, because there's more of them, right? Like, I can fill up my stadium with 50,000, but I can get millions around the world with this other thing. And I think the more they can bring in people and legitimize fans around the world from a fan standpoint, the more powerful that can be in harnessing that power for good for the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the weeks and the months to come, especially as we look ahead to the new season as well. But just going back to the games itself, just giving you a picture of the table, by the way. City, of course, didn't play. Manchester United, with that point, they remain 7 points behind Man City. I mean, we think that it's pretty much done and dusted, obviously. Leicester City play on Monday, as we mentioned. Liverpool, though, if they had won that, at least temporarily, they would have gone all the way up to fourth or even closer to a Champions League spot. But tying now makes it super interesting because, you've got Chelsea in fourth, Heath. West Ham, even though they lost, they still are in fifth, so right behind them. Liverpool, still 4 points behind Chelsea for that Champions League spot. Are Liverpool not getting Champions League next season?
I'm a bit worried for Liverpool, just because it seems like nothing can go their way. And then when they're in control, and Newcastle were solid, but to give up points at home against Newcastle certainly seems like a very different Liverpool for this time of year that you expect from them. So there's definitely a risk, and they're also leaving it in the hands of a Leicester City, and Leicester has a really, really challenging schedule, by the way. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that they play like Let me see if I can grab it real quick.
No, I can say it for you. We have it here. Yeah, I mean, they have Palace on Monday, obviously, but Southampton, okay, doable. Newcastle, they're going to be fighting still, I guess. But then Manchester United, Chelsea, and then they face Chelsea, obviously, in the FA Cup, and then after that, Tottenham. So the final 4 games, including all competitions, is difficult for Leicester City. But Liverpool have Manchester United next season. It's going to be a very interesting, taking them out 2 seasons ago. What am I talking about? They're the defending champions, of the Champions League. No, I'm sorry. 2 seasons ago, they won the Champions League, and now we're talking about the fact that they might not make it for next season.
Yeah, and Liverpool, if they can get past United, they've got a really, I guess it's not in their hands. It's
Chelsea dropping points. So it's really, like you said, it's really down to Leicester, I think. I don't see Chelsea. I know Leicester fans, you're angry because you're even above Chelsea. But I just don't, and you have a game in hand as well with the Palace one on Monday. But I see it more of a fight between Leicester City and Liverpool to try and get that.
That's the thing. If Leicester win on Monday, it's going to be really hard for Liverpool to come back from, because that puts them equal on games, and then behind 8
points they'll get.
Yeah, that's a lot. And then if you look at Leicester City, they could. That's your almost 9 points for the last 3 games that are difficult. And they should be able to take down a Newcastle team and things like that. So it's definitely Leicester's to lose if they are to win tomorrow. So it's not looking good. And then you have a West Ham team who are not going away, even though
only 3 points behind Chelsea.
And a Chelsea team that's really informant. I don't see, I think Chelsea probably, they don't win out, but I could see them going undefeated for their final 5 games of the year. They have just draw win. What's their schedule? I mean,
Real Madrid obviously is going to be, their Champions League journey is going to be a headache, of course, but they have the squad to do it. But they have Real Madrid, and after that, at home to Fulham. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then the second leg against Real Madrid. Then this is the key one, away at Man City. Then they host Arsenal. Then they host Leicester City. Then they play Leicester City again because of the FA Cup final. And then Villa. That's not easy.
That's harder than Leicester's.
Yeah, but I'm just not seeing Chelsea are just being so good defensively. At the very least, I'm seeing them in the most toughest of fixtures. I see them at least getting a point. They're just so organized and together. It's amazing what Tuchel has done. And I can't remember who said it. I think it was Miguel Delaney on Twitter a few weeks ago. Tuchel has completely thrown out that argument about, if a new manager comes in halfway through a season, he needs the summer to build, whatever. Tuchel's doing it right now. He's already creating this culture. And that actually answers your question from before, Dave Sepperson, about Tottenham. Look what this manager has done already in the space of a few months? It's crazy.
Yeah, and when you have a new manager come in, you see a new manager comes into Spurs. It might be Dele Alli's back in the team, build his confidence back up.
You never know,
player again. You never know. But when you look at Chelsea, it's like a little bit defeated of a team, but you have all these young guys, and then you start to see this lineup. You expect this lineup to take shape, right? Which means that naturally you've got 3, 4, 5 players that think they deserve to be starting on the bench. And that's what Tuchel's got, a little bit of this magic where they all seem motivated still, at least through the end of this season, where they're still winning, they're getting results, he's still tinkering, at least in the attack. And those players still feel they have something to prove, as opposed to thinking oh, fine, this manager's against me and whatever. And again, that's that magic of a good manager that knows how to manage egos. And it's just, it goes, I know they get a lot of credit as managers anyway, but there is a little bit of something to keep a squad motivated like that Chelsea doesn't think. They know they have a hard schedule to see out the rest of the year, but given the fact that he got 1 loss since Tuchel came, I believe it's still.
And FA Cup final, Champions League semi-final. They're in a Champions League spot. I just think that, to your point, Thomas Tuchel, once he arrived, or at least a few weeks in, he said, I don't have a favorite. I care about protecting our lead, protecting our club, and I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Timo Werner, Azpilicueta, if you whoever. I'm just not going to favor anybody, and it's working. And like you said, I think everybody's brought in. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens and who gets those Champions League spots. Because City, obviously, United, and then those last 2, I think Leicester City, like you said, if they beat Palace, they're going to be looking good for it.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, right? Is we started this saying can Liverpool slip into the top 4? If they had won this weekend, they would have moved up to 4 temporarily. But you look at it, or I guess they would have moved to 5th, right? So you look at it and you go, well, at this point on, it's got nothing to do with Liverpool. Liverpool could win out, right? Which I don't think they'll do.
They don't control their own destiny.
They don't control their own destiny. Yeah. They actually have to win out just to
stay in the fight.
Yeah.
And so West Ham, we haven't even talked about West Ham. David Moyes doing a tremendous job this season. We'll see what happens with them because they're still in it. They're only 3 points behind Chelsea. So, it's up for grabs for sure.
And Spurs, by the way, are
no. I mean, they'll be lucky to get Europa. To be perfectly honest, I just don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen.
Right, but my point is you don't know what Spurs you're going to get, but they're 1 point behind Liverpool. If Liverpool hit this bump, right? They drew their last 2 league games. They continue that bump. If Spurs decided under this interim manager that they're going to play great the rest of the year, like you could see Liverpool completely. You could see them at 7, and out of a European spot. Like not to mention a top 4.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do the rest of Europe and we'll answer some more questions. Qué Golazo Weekend Recap. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Qué Golazo Weekend Recap. Heath Pearce with me. We will talk now the rest of Europe as well and some other things that have been going on this weekend. In La Liga. La Liga is super interesting. Heath Pearce, Barcelona beating Villarreal. Real Madrid couldn't beat Real Betis 0-0. And, Semra Hunter, our friend on Twitter, brought something up here. Barcelona wins the remaining of their games. And by the way, Atletico Madrid currently 1-1 against Athletic Bilbao. 10 minutes to go in that one. But it doesn't matter. If Barcelona win the remaining of their matches, they win La Liga, Heath Pearce.
Is that true?
Yes. Because one of the games that they still have to play is against Atletico Madrid.
Oh no! I just realized that. Man, it was like one of those riddles where it's like how if they have less points than the team that's in first, if Atletico go on to win here in the next few minutes, which it's currently a draw in the 80th against Athletic Bilbao, you go, wow, you're right. Man, that's crazy. That's terrifying.
If they win the remaining games, including the Atletico Madrid game, they will win La Liga, which is crazy.
Imagine the drama of a team that's gone through what they've gone through this year. And Messi in one of his better years again, I guess every year he's good, but to go on and win the domestic double would be outrageous.
To me, it's about Ronald Koeman. I mean, think about how he joined. He joined literally at the cusp where the mountain of Messi says he wants to go came. So that was his first nightmare he had to deal with. Then everything else that came with it during the year, all these things about the new president, their issues economically, the Super League stuff, everything. And yet he's already won Copa del Rey and now he might win La Liga. I mean, obviously it's not done yet, but the fact that he's got them in contention for this is kind of crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, outside of what, I'm looking at Ronald Koeman's stats anyway, and he's like, okay, as a manager, he's won the Eredivisie, I think 3 times with 2 times with Ajax, once with PSV. He's won. It's not like he came in with this gigantic, like kind of trophy room.
No, and I'll tell you another thing. I'm sorry to interrupt. He also arrives at a squad that was in transition. I mean, Serginho Dest just arrived. He has to bring in different types of player. Antoine Griezmann was unhappy at the very beginning. Now he's doing well. So many different things you have to do. Listen, I don't want to completely hand it over to him. He hasn't won it yet, but he's already won 1 trophy. So, the fact that it could happen again and win La Liga is kind of amazing, taking in mind of how the year started in the first place. We have a question from Harold, our bud Harold. Sevilla crashing La Liga a little bit. Do they have a chance? Well, I don't know what chance you mean, Harold. I mean, they have a chance at, obviously, Champions League football because Real Sociedad, a complete mess. They're 20 points behind Sevilla. So you would think that Sevilla Champions League is good. But, listen, they have 70 points. They are only, as we speak, only 4 points behind Atletico Madrid. Atleti's still tying that game. That's insane. Good job, Sevilla.
Yeah, there's been just a massive implosion, obviously, from Real Sociedad, who, and it goes back to 3 months now. It's more of like a settling than it is an implosion.
Yeah, it was moment by moment. Yeah, and they've drawn 11 matches. I mean, it's it's too many. You can't do that.
Yeah, but with regard to Sevilla, do they play Barca or Real Madrid or Atletico in the rest of the
Sevilla's fixtures coming up, of course. They have Athletic Bilbao next game. They have to play Real Madrid.
Yep.
Then Valencia at home to Valencia, then Alaves, and then Villarreal. So it's not Real Madrid, obviously tough. I think the Villarreal game is tough, but it's doable. But their Champions League spot for next season is fine. You guys are fine. It's more about whether you can, so if they beat Real Madrid, oh my goodness. I mean, they would be so ridiculous. So La Liga is super interesting right now.
Yeah, they
Liga, as they say. Liga.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying that. Yeah, Sevilla, obviously, I don't think are going to win the league, but yeah, they could disrupt the status quo. And even though they don't play Barcelona, they could put a dampener in Real Madrid. But yeah, it looks like where they're at now is where I expect them up and down one place, but that doesn't change, I guess, their Champions League qualification.
No, absolutely. And by the way, just going quickly around everywhere, the Bundesliga as well. Bayern Munich, all they needed to do was beat Mainz, and they didn't do that. Lewandowski was back. He scored late, but they failed to beat Mainz. All they needed to do was win, Heath, and they would have won their 9th straight Bundesliga title, and they didn't do it. So, I mean, I'm sure, I still think it'll happen, but it was kind of weird that they didn't. Borussia Dortmund, by the way, got a really good win against Wolfsburg. I mean, I'll give you 2 guesses who really went off.
2 guesses on who scored both, who the goal scorer is for both goals for Dortmund.
And one of them, I think it was the second one, the breakaway, the counter. I think literally just before he was in his own half, Borussia Dortmund counter, and Erling Haaland just goes off. And I swear to you, it was like 4 steps to get into the box. It was unbelievable. And the way that he finished, because it was just crazy.
Have you seen the memes lately that people are doing where I saw this one influencer, Daniel Got Hits, put he tied bananas to his head to have the Holland hair and then was doing like the run. Have you seen these things that people are recreating as runs where there's a guy running through a pasture like him with a ball?
Oh my God. People are amazing, man.
Yeah, it's that Holland song, the Holland.
That's amazing.
It's pretty good. It's worth 6 seconds of your time. But yeah, I think he's, I don't know who's actually, let me check this real quick. Who's the golden boot race right now? Because I know Silva scored again this weekend and puts him at 25. Holland might be at 25, 26. I mean, we're talking about a serious amount of goals in the golden boot race. And then you have Lewandowski. Oh, let me check this.
Yeah, you check it while I talk a little more to everybody. You check that. Just giving you, we're going round now as well. In Ligue A, by the way, PSG get a good win as well. Let's check here. Yeah. So, by the way, Lyon and Lille currently playing right now. 5 minutes to go. It's 2-0 right now. Mm-hmm. It's 2-0 in that race. And if that's the case, PSG go top, which is kind of amazing. So it'll be a great weekend for PSG. Also in Serie A, that race as well is crazy. I mean, Inter Milan's looking good for it. A few more wins and they'll take it. Atalanta in second. Milan play they play on Monday, I believe. Juventus tied Fiorentina, and Napoli, who play on Monday, if they win, I believe they go in the Champions League. But Roma lost to Cagliari. It's all going off. Roma paying more attention to Europa, but it's all going off. Everybody, if you're listening, you need to pay a lot of attention to Serie A for the Champions League races. I feel that Premier League as well. Spain, we still don't really have a definite in terms of who's going to win the whole thing.
Oh, hey, guess what? Lille just scored. They're up 3-2 now. Oh my goodness.
Oh, boy. See, we love recording like this because we just get all this information as well. So, yes, Lille 3, Lyon 2. And guess what? It's Yilmaz again. That's right. Jonathan Davis scored in the 60th, and Yilmaz got 2 goals in that one. So that's crazy. Anyway, we'll keep going here. Did you get me the golden boot?
Yes. So obviously, anybody who's been paying attention to the Bundesliga knows that Lewandowski is on I think he's on 36 goals. I think the record is 40. He's hunting that down in his last. He's got 36 in 26 games, by the way. But for the second in the golden boot race, which has no value, but it does in this context, Andre Silva on 25 after 29 games, and then Erling Haaland on 25 with 26 games played. So a better
and he
goal.
was injured for a few weeks as well.
Yeah, so he's played 3 less matches than Silva has, but they're both on 25. And by the way, Haaland and Lewandowski. So Haaland's got 25 in 26 matches played, right? That's like 0.9 whatever goals per game. And then Lewandowski, which is insane, is
he needs 4 more.
Yeah, he needs 4 more, but he scored 36 and 26. I don't know what the math is on that. I don't know how you do that. It's like 1.3 a game is ridiculous. And a team that's not even like you would think that they've completely destroyed everybody, but they're still like, yeah, they need 1 more win to secure it. But like up until now, and up until they played Leipzig a couple of weeks ago, it was like 3-4 points between them and Leipzig in the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Lewandowski 4 more goals and he ties Gerd Muller's 40-goal season record, which is just insane. It's just absolutely insane.
That's crazy. By the way, one last thing I would say on France is that Lille doesn't really have a difficult schedule after this either. If they're able to pull this off, if they were going to draw, it would have put Monaco back in the title race as well. But if they were to win this, I think it eliminates Monaco and Lyon, who are also still in a top sort of 2 race. The really tight top of the table, but it could be that Lille are able to see this out and do sort of the unthinkable, which I didn't like. Is one of those things where you're like, yeah, just wait, just like we do with Bayern every year. We're like, just wait till Lille mess up, and but I think Lille getting knocked out of Europa League has sort of given them this motivation to focus on this one thing, and they might run away with this.
And guess what? Athletic Bilbao has scored. Atleti 1, Athletic Bilbao 2. Unbelievable. There's only like a few minutes left in that one as well. I love it. If you're listening to this is why we love doing it in the afternoon, because we keep you going. All right, listen, a few other things to talk about, by the way. The Women's Champions League as well, the semifinals. The first leg, I believe, PSG tied Barcelona 1-0 today, and Bayern Munich beat Chelsea 2-1. So, the second leg carries on the following week, the first week of May 2nd as well. So keep track of that. MLS had some good games. Ezequiel Barco with an absolute banger for Atlanta United as well. LAFC Seattle, just matches everywhere. But I do want to end it with this. Heath Pearce, Norwich back in the Premier League, Watford back in the Premier League as well. So it should be sort of a similar Premier League to what we remember from not that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. I most of my tracking of the championship has been trying to watch Daryl DK get his team into.
Well, he guaranteed a playoff spot, so hopefully he can be the third, right?
And I think they are currently in a playoff spot. But yeah,
they guaranteed a playoff spot. Yeah.
Oh, they're guaranteed one. Okay, I thought you said he guaranteed them when he arrived.
I believe they booked one. I believe they booked one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's amazing. It's amazing. We're starting to see the Premier League take shape, and also West Brom. Kind of, if they would have seen out their result today and they gave it up, what was it in the 92nd minute against Villa?
Yeah,
they would have at least been a momentum. They would have still been behind Fulham, but yeah, we're starting to see sort of the elevator rides starting to take shape.
Yeah, thank God. No, so Barnsley in 6th, right, which is the last spot, 77 points, and with only 2 games remaining, and then before that is Reading with 69. So it's done. So they booked it. So your playoff outlook is Brentford 3rd, Bournemouth 4th, Swansea, and Barnsley. Unbelievable. It's going to be great. By the way, if you don't watch the championship, watch the playoff matches, especially the final. It's crazy stuff.
It's funny. I caught up with DK this last week, and I was asking him, I was like, hey, one of the things that I experienced in when I played in Germany was that the second league was so much harder to play in than the first.
Absolutely.
Because the pitches are worse, the level is worse, so naturally the speed of the game picks up, right? So where that level drops, the intensity increases. And I asked him what he thought about that, and he's like, yeah, dude, like, he's like, from his very first day there, he's like, man, everyone's banging heads, everybody's going after everything, which actually fits his style of play of like chaos,
clearly
being the type of player that he is. But he was talking about like how it just seemed playing in it just seemed so much harder than the Premier League when he watched it, just because of, you got to scrap for every single thing.
Everything. Yeah. When Aston Villa was in it and I was watching it even with a more careful eye, basically it has the imperfections that the Premier League often doesn't have. It's much more physical. And there is so much more at stake that defensively, from a vulnerable perspective, you can allow yourself to really see a game that will go against you in the split in the blink of an eye. It's really amazing. The championship is a super fun league to watch, especially as we get to the end of this. All right, well, that's the end of the show, everybody. I wanted Heath to just give me your final thoughts on everything. And if you do your final thoughts, hopefully we can give you this final result from Athletic Bilbao against Atleti, because right now Athletic Bilbao still lead 2-1.
Yeah, my final thought is for the domestic fan who is a fan of Major League Soccer. One of the 5 players that I said to watch recently was Cade Cowley, 17 years old. He's a striker from San Jose. He grew up in my hometown, so I'm giving him even more love. But he had a goal and assist. He is a player that had some minutes last year, but they had a guy named Chris Wondolowski now who's going to take a backseat to developing this kid as a mentor. But 17 years old, had a goal and assist this weekend. We're starting to see, the point I'm trying to make is we're starting to see a lot more of these players come out younger and perform incredibly well as teenagers. And so I think we're really rounding a corner of not just the players we're seeing in the national team, but this next crop of players is something to watch. And he's one to keep an eye out for with San Jose Earthquakes.
I love it. I love it. And the only thing I'll say is that Atletico Madrid did lose to Athletic Bilbao, and Lille at this moment still winning 3-2, remaining top of the table in France. Heath Pearce, thank you so much, brother.
Oh, thank you. I'm exhausted from this one, man. When we're doing live scores too, this is emotional this time of year. You know, Atletico a few months ago when they were up 11 points was fine, but I'm an emotional wreck. And I do want to say, if Barcelona do go on to win this, I don't feel bad for shifting the conversation to them because it's a great story. And Atletico Madrid completely S the bed on this one. They've given up this title if they lose it. It's no one else's fault.
Absolutely. And this could be the key whether Messi stays or not as well, which is just massive. So many things happening. But Heath Pearce, so good to have you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, everybody. I want to thank Heath Pearce for joining me today. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, follow us on Apple Podcasts, and leave a 5-star rating and review. Make sure that you follow us on YouTube, Stitcher, and Spotify, cbsports.com. We have so much more coming up, including the Champions League, the semifinals, of course, Fabrizio Romano as well. Stay with us. Weekday, Qué Golazo. Have a great beginning to your week.